Good day, SpookBoxers. This week we're talking about Us. No, not Us. Us. 2019 slasher horror film by Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions.
10 out of 10.
This is one of those films with a discrepancy in response between critics and audiences, this time garnering more applause by way of the critics. As both critics and audience members, we're going to do our darndest to figure out what the hell you should be thinking about it.
Darn right.
Of course, for this mega task, I'm joined, as ever, by Conor.
Hello.
And Daf.
Hello.
Who is phoning in today and could possibly be a doppelganger.
Oh, no.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that.
I'm beaming to you from an undisclosed location.
Are you in the sewer?
I'm actually thinking I might do this more often because I can actually sit down in a comfortable position.
Wow.
Hey, don't diss our audio setup, man. That's not cool.
The audio setup.
I'm so jealous.
For example, I could easily do this in my underwear if I wanted. But I mean, I guess that's true of anything.
You're wearing a three-piece suit, though,
wait,
right?
you must be a doppelganger. Daft doesn't wear underwear.
Like I do every week. I'm wearing a three-piece suit.
Do the
Gorgeous.
doppelgangers wear underwear? That's a question.
I don't know, but we'll save it. Save it. I'm just wanting to know, I was going to say, lads, what's your lasting impressions from having seen this? But maybe it is, do they wear underwear? What's your kind of, what's stayed with you? Because it's quite like a thick and juicy film. There's a lot in there. What
Definitely
comes to mind when I say, we're talking about this movie?
Hey, man, you go first.
I go first. I think so. I watched it for the first time yesterday.
Right.
I somehow managed to avoid every single spoiler about this film for the year and a bit that it's been out, and I have to admit I saw the twist coming. I definitely saw that coming.
What twist?
But Oh, yeah. Well, okay, we won't mention the twist.
Of course we mention the twist. I'm not going to be able to talk about this film.
Spoiler alert to all our 30 listeners. By the way, all 30 listeners, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. Actually, 75 on our first video. So all 75 people that have listened to that.
75.
You're great. So what twist?
Bold of you to assume that 75 are listening to this one.
Well, eventually they will. And when you get here, this is a message from the past. We love you.
We've been waiting.
You're loved by someone. What twist? What are you on about?
I'm talking about should I get into it now? The twist at the end?
Well, I just don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the fact that Adelaide, the protagonist of the movie, was in fact the sort of doppelganger.
Yeah. Oh, right.
I mean, in quotations, the doppelganger.
Yeah, see, I didn't. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think it tries to sort of let you know about that, but it's lovely. It's directed so well.
Yeah,
they let that be at the very end.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but I really enjoyed the film. I think I went in expecting something along the similar lines to Get Out, Jordan Peele's first movie, but. In hindsight, watching it yesterday, I think I realized that it's one of these great second movies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it comes off as being much more cryptic and much more sort of dense. And I think I can understand why critics and audiences would have such a different reaction to that, because I think Get Out, by comparison, feels more like a straightforward horror movie, albeit, made with this sort of racial critique and critiques of white sort of liberal Americans, but this one felt more like a statement piece. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's sort of it's willingly kind of difficult at times, I think.
I think its metaphors are larger than the film in a way, and I think that's like probably was Jordan Peele's intention, was to start a conversation with it. Like, I totally agree with the difference with Get Out, where the horror of the plot and the horror of the metaphor both seem to gel quite well, because the corollary of the character's experience is one that a lot of people have experienced as a person of color. This this fear of being in an all-white community and space. So it's like something that had horror that worked quite cohesively between like the experience that people could put themselves in and the reveal. Whereas, you know, the experience of having doppelgangers show up at your door is much more odd and like typically horror. Like I think Jordan Peele said that the inspiration was a Twilight Zone episode or something, like called Trick Mirror. Like, you know, it's a very like bold horror trope, this idea of an other. So it's a much less like literal horror in a sense. It's all working on the level of metaphor, which is maybe why I think some people aren't satisfied with it, because Get Out was just so neat in terms of how both levels were like stitched together.
I prefer this film to Get Out.
Because you can talk about it more, because it's a less kind of complete thing. It's a bit more like...
I can seem very smart.
You can seem smart talking about this film?
Yeah, when I talk about us, I can just seem like the intellectual that I truly am.
All right. Well...
It sounded like you're about to slap me there.
No, I feel like I want to raise that challenge to you then with my questions.
Oh man, challenge accepted.
So can we dive into the plot summary? I'll whip through it.
Absolutely.
And then I'm gonna see just how intellectual you think you are. Okay. Plot summary. In 1986, a young girl named Adelaide goes on vacation with her parents to Santa Cruz. At the Santa Cruz Beach boardwalk, she wanders off and enters a funhouse, where she encounters a doppelganger of herself in the Hall of Mirrors. In the present day, the now adult Adelaide is haunted by memories of the encounter. She goes on vacation with her husband, Gabe, and their children, Zora and Jason. She is apprehensive about the trip, but Gabe, eager to impress their rich friends, Josh and Kitty, brushes off her misgivings. At the beach, Jason sees a man standing with his arms outstretched, blood dripping from one hand. That night, a family of 4 dressed in red appears in the Wilsons' driveway. They break into the house and attack them. The intruders turn out to be the Wilsons' doppelgangers. They include Pluto, Jason's double who behaves akin to a feral dog, Umbre, Zora's double who consistently has a sadistic smirk, Abraham, Gabe's double who can now only groan nonsensically, and are led by Red, Adelaide's double who talks in a raspy and stunted manner.
Whoa! Oh,
that was...
Hey, no, none of that. That was genuinely chilling.
The volume peaked too much. Oh, he's happy with himself. The only one who can talk, Red, explains that the doppelgangers are... It's such a cool performance, like...
Yeah, okay. What if we all do our best impression for the night? Because, you know, we all want to show...
Like, just for a wee second.
Like, okay, so the rest of the podcast...
I'm trying to think of the line. What is the line that they said that she uses?
We're Americans. Because that was...
We're Americans.
Oh, you're so good at it. Daft's like looking for voice actor work, by the way.
Yeah, get out.
We've never had an actual... We've never had a jump scare on the show before, so I'm quite happy that
Wait,
we're
Daft, can you say we are Americans as Red, and then can you say it as Zizek off the back of it?
So Red, we are Americans.
Whoa.
And then perhaps Zizek, I doubt, we are Americans.
So good.
Daft Jenkins, ladies and gentlemen.
The dynamics that he provides.
Stick it on the demo reel. It's a shame that I'm on the phone for this, because I think, you know, it probably could have been really good for my demo reel.
The dynamics. That we're just not catching those dynamics. Yeah.
Nah, that was awesome. Right, okay.
The subtleties.
Red explains, we're continuing here. Red explains that the doppelgangers are called the tethered, that they share a soul with their counterparts, and that they have come to untether themselves. She tells him the story of a girl who's loved and happy, while her shadow remains in the dark, suffering. The family separated by their doppelgangers. Red makes Adelaide handcuff herself to a table. Zora is pursued by her double, Umbre. Gabe is pursued by Abraham. Jason is sent to play with Pluto. Zora evades Umbre and Gabe kills Abraham, while Jason discovers that Pluto mirrors his actions and locks him in the closet. Red is drawn away by Pluto's cries, allowing Adelaide to break free. The family regroups and escapes on their boat. Meanwhile, the Tyler family is murdered by their tethered. The Wilsons arrive and are forced to kill the Tyler's doubles. They turn on the news to see that the tethered have been murdering their counterparts across the United States. When Zora drives the family away in the Tyler's car, Umbre attacks but is thrown off the car and killed. I also want to say that Adelaide shows some kind of sympathy at that point towards Umbre. At the Santa Cruz boardwalk, the Wilsons find the road blocked by their own car, which has been set on fire. Pluto set a trap for the Wilsons, standing over a gasoline trail with a match. Jason, remembering that Pluto imitates him, makes Pluto walk into the fire. Red abducts Jason while Gabe recuperates from his wounds with soda. Adelaide returns to the funhouse and finds a secret tunnel in the Hall of Mirrors. It leads to an underground facility overrun by rabbits, where she finds Red. Red explains that the tethered are clones, created by the government to control their counterparts on the surface. When the experiment failed, the tethered were abandoned underground for generations, mindlessly copying the actions of their counterparts until Red organised them to escape and take revenge. Red and Adelaide fight, with Red countering all of Adelaide's attacks. As Red moves for a final stab, Adelaide impales Red with a fireplace poker and breaks her neck before rescuing Jason from a locker. Adelaide drives the family away in the ambulance and recalls the night she first met Red in the Hall of Mirrors. The doppelganger choked Adelaide unconscious, chained her in the underground, and secretly took Adelaide's place in the world above, while Adelaide became Red. Across the hills, the doppelgangers join hands to form a massive human chain. Okay, so first question.
Back to basics.
Okay, then back to basics. Just a wee simple one, just a wee fun one, like pick a piece of symbolism in the film and tell us what you think it means.
Oh my gosh, that's a great question.
Just a wee baby question.
I love that.
Do you want to go first, Connor?
Yeah, I want to pick the single glove.
Okay.
And what it means is this rebellion, this uprising of the tethered is being led by a little girl whose last sort of cultural engagement with the outside world was Michael Jackson. So they are wearing single gloves like Michael Jackson wore a single glove. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, people didn't really get that one, I thought.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yawning? Really?
No, I'm sorry. I already knew that.
Get some better material.
It's very cool. It's every single detail has been thought out in this film.
Do you want me to blow your mind with the scissors?
Yes.
So the best I could come up with for the scissors last time you checked was that the scissors were tools that the tethered were using underground to cut out the paper chains.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a better one. The scissors are showing the combined strength of a tethered and an untethered. You know, the film is filled with these symbols of single figures. You know, the 1-1-1-1, or the hands. You know, the paper chain people. So, what the scissors symbolize are the kind of crisscrossing elements of what seems to be one individual. That is joined. So that idea of two bodies joined by one soul, the scissors are the perfect symbol of that. You have these intersecting, But
ultimately,
bodies.
they're used for violence.
Well, violence comes out of their use, or their violence comes out of their intersection. Yeah.
I wonder if the government have tethered as well, or if it's just...
There is no government.
So who made them then? They say they.
You don't know. And see, that's the thing. So you and I both assumed after the first time we saw the film that this is some underground government operation, but no one says that the clones were made by the government. It's not that clear.
I know it's not that clear,
which
but
I love.
I do think that's cool, but I also think that
You don't think that's cool. You think this film is lame.
I don't think it's lame. I think that there's just a lot left unanswered, which I think is obstructive to your emotional response to it, in the way that Get Out, every detail was taken care of so that you could fully immerse in it. This film, people are coming to it for a similar experience, but
I respectfully disagree.
It's
but
really different.
I don't want to Bogart.
And what do you think, Daf? Tell us about a wee bit of symbolism.
Coming off of the scissors thing, I wanted to. I think something that you did allude to, Connor. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the symbolism of the scissors was the idea that, obviously being the tethered scissors cutting the sort of thing that tethers people, and the idea of the people from the underground coming up to the surface and then holding hands. This is quite a nice idea in the contradiction between, cutting themselves from their sort of, surface counterparts in order for them to rise and then join hands. So, I mean, to cut and also to come together, I quite like as a sort of symbol.
It's that phrase that, cleft. It has cleft my heart in twain. The idea that cutting is joining. Yeah. I'm down for that.
That's lovely.
The other,
thank you.
Other symbol. I don't know if it's a symbol necessarily, but I think one of my favorite aspects of the film, one of my favorite details, was the Hall of Mirrors changing theme in the film. I love the idea of Adelaide as a child entering the Hall of Mirrors. That's sort of themed under sort of caricatures of Native Americans, and it being called, I forget what it's called.
Vision Quest.
And then later on, containing exactly the same content, it's still a spook house, but it's sort of been rebranded as a sort of Merlin's forest.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I like this idea that it sort of echoes things that are happening more recently, I guess, with sort of branded packaging, removing sort of problematic artwork, and sort of changing names, like football, like American football teams changing names because there's a sort of
what are they called? The Washington Redskins.
Yeah, that's right. This idea of superficial, almost wokeness, I guess you could call it, that sort of conceals a sort of broader, unchanging kind of darkness, I guess.
I love that. Yeah.
Now, I have a whole
I enjoyed that
reading of the film that basically stems from that. It stems from that idea of rebranding or of covering up.
Because you think that's what Adelaide has done.
So
she's fully rebranded.
I think I was getting towards a reading of that sort. I think I really want to watch it again, maybe another 2 times. So I think there's a lot in there, but I'm really interested in hearing what this reading is, Connor.
So I see the whole film. Should I say, or should we move on? Are there more? Should we go on for questions? Or
there's plenty of time.
There's plenty. Right. Okay. So I think this film is absolutely incredible, and I didn't like it the first time I saw it. First time I saw it, I thought it was really overwrought. I thought it was, taking on more than it could chew, and I was quite disappointed.
The word messy is bandied about this film quite a lot.
They're wrong.
But I mean, I can almost see what they mean by messy.
Yeah.
I disagree that it's messy, but I see how people can approach this film and feel as if it's sort of just loaded.
Yeah.
It's just full.
You actually said, Heather, as we were watching the film just, yesterday, you felt like there's too much in it.
Yeah, I've got a wee quote from a critic here saying there's too many ideas and not enough answers.
Hell no. There's only one idea.
Is the critic's name Heather?
I mean, oh, excuse me, sorry. There
was an earthquake.
I've just had to cross my legs to settle into this, right? So, I mean, that's kind of my point of view, but let's get your reading, Connor.
Right. Us is fundamentally a film about... It's not extendable to all humanity. It's not a film about the human condition. The key line of the film is, we are Americans. The
US.
Exactly. It's us as Americans. The idea of the film is that American society is one in which every human being has two lives. They have the life that is supported by the chosen context. Not chosen context, the apparent context of the country at any given time. And they have their kind of mirror self. And I think it's important to say mirror self because Jordan Peele tries to evoke that idea of a mirror world through the use of the white rabbits, trying to get us to think about Alice through the looking glass, and through the idea of mirrored actions. When Jason walks, Pluto walks in the opposite direction. So you have your mirror self. That would be you if society was different for you. What that does is expels the idea of monsters. It expels or dispels the idea that any human being is capable of something. It's the antithesis of the American dream. It's the antithesis of the idea that if you, as an individual, just try hard enough, you can excel at something. Instead, what it's trying to say is, no matter what happens, you're always just bound to the world that you find yourself in. Now, it has to use an exception to that rule to make that point through the combined Adelaide-Red narrative, but fundamentally it is trying to say that there is no human being that is fundamentally born for greatness or can achieve greatness on their own merit. Instead, you are just always working within a system, and that applies to almost all things within America. So whether it's the concept of Native American appropriation, being at one time totally fine, and then within a couple of years being rebranded, or whether it's Black Flag being at one point countercultural, and then in a few years' time being something worn on the t-shirts of white teenagers. Hip hop music, being embraced by the underworld, the counterculture of hip hop in the 1980s, or if it is being then reworked into an orchestral piece.
Yes.
So you see all of this mirroring throughout the film, but what that mirroring is put into place by is context. So the film is kind of a parable for the viewer to consider, who is my mirror self? Who is my shadow? And what do I have to thank for the existence of my non-shadow self?
I think it's a film about privilege, but then, well, first of all, I want to say that I think that is the desired reading. Like, absolutely. I have a wee piece here.
I get it, Jordan. I get it.
I have
Let's hang out.
A wee piece here from what Jordan said, which
Let's have lunch.
I'd like to say, because I think you're pretty much spot on with what he was trying to say with the film. He says, one of the central themes in Us is that we can do a good job collectively of ignoring the ramifications of privilege. I think it's the idea that we feel that what we feel like we deserve comes, at the expense of someone else's freedom or joy. The biggest disservice we can do as a faction with a collective privilege like the United States is to presume that we deserve it, and that it isn't luck that has born us into what we're born into. For us to have our privilege, someone suffers. That's where the tether connection, I think, resonates the most, is that those who suffer and those who prosper are two sides of the same coin. You can never forget that. We need to fight for the less fortunate. So you were saying that you saw it less of an individual tethering, but more of societal tethering between the appropriation of things from people less fortunate.
No, see, that's not it. That's not my understanding of the film. What I'm trying to say is that every human being in America exists, lives a double life, and that includes Donald Trump. So which level are they living on more dominantly? Who do you mean?
The individual in America. Which one do you rate them as? As the tethered or the above level?
Both.
They're both all the time.
You're both all the time. That's the thing. You have a shadow, and the shadow is, what happens if your support network fails you? What happens if the Social Security is removed, or whatever, and for some people the line between themselves and their shadow is very fine. So if you think about the guy with 1111 on the piece of cardboard versus the guy that had it carved into his head, there's very little difference between them.
Yeah,
which is why it's so fitting that he is the first casualty.
Now, let me just say, this is all fantastic.
Because I'm smart.
This is all fantastic, but what I want to say is,
I'm very petty.
The film, as a vehicle for this message, I think, doesn't teach us to respect our tethering, but it teaches us to fear the tethered coming to get revenge. Like, that is what's happening literally in the film, is that the person who hasn't benefited is coming to kill you. So you're taught to fear somebody who has missed opportunities,
But it doesn't do that because I think Red Adelaide.
Right.
It has to use that, remember that Red is not the tethered.
Absolutely, but we're also taught that they're a unique example. That no one else is like that.
I don't like this. This feels like you're not...
No, I just think that the thing is, like, in Get Out, we saw the message of the film, and we saw the action of the film, and there was, like, a real marriage between the two things. But with this film, the message, which you can get out of it if you're Conor McKeown, is brilliant. But
I'm going to redact my last name there. I'm going to put in a loud beep. We have to keep some sort of anonymity.
Oh, sorry. You should put in a beep. But yeah, do you know what I'm saying, Daf?
Don't say yes, Daf.
Do I know what you're saying? I mean,
stay on the right side of this.
I see what you're getting at.
Jordan Peele might hang out with us.
Because I think if there is a sort of class allegory going on here with the people underground and the people above ground, I see what you mean by the idea that the sort of the underground people as being sort of monsters, almost as being sort of prelingual sort of idiots.
Yeah, because none of them can speak. I sort of
see what you're getting at, but then my understanding of what Conor is saying is that they're not supposed to be different people. They're not necessarily supposed to be a different class of people. They're supposed to be. They're all supposed to be the same people.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
They are the same.
The idea that of people, being in a position where they can slip into a sort of different version of themselves by some twist of fate or by some slight decrease in luck or something.
Yes.
Is that sort of along the lines of what you were thinking, Conor?
Yes, it is. And you've kind of saved me here, because for a second there, Heather had me, and I was just gonna turn off the microphones and leave. I was going to take my toys and go.
No, I'm like just stoking the fire of discussion. I'm not like beholden to the idea that the film doesn't work. I just have some reservations about the discrepancy between the critic reaction and the audience reaction, and what I'm trying to say is that I think that someone who's thinking critically can get that message from the film, but is the average viewer getting that message? And if the point of the film is to start conversations about these things, was there not maybe a neater way to make this point? Because I think that this symbolism can maybe be a little bit confusing for the average viewer.
Certainly, Peele's, what you read from the director Jordan Peele just now, it does sort of feed into the way you understood the film, Heather. It feeds into this idea that, you know, we need to respect people who are less fortunate than us.
Yeah, they are literally the less fortunate people. They're not the same person, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
no. But that's what he's trying to say, is that there are less fortunate people, but it's all
but
just happenstance.
In this movie, it's more like a split timeline kind of thing. It's more like a split universe where it's the same person we're seeing play out in different contexts.
No. I'm so close. You see, this is the thing. I think it's a really clever film, and that what he's trying to say is really difficult to express.
I agree. That's why I want to try and get it. I don't think it's easy.
I don't think there's a clearer way to put it. I think it is clear. You know, it's like if in the room right now is the version of me where, you know, the lovely British society that we happen to be a part of, you know, with our NHS and all the rest of it. Like, all right, small example. When I was a teenager, I got this medicine that meant that I didn't get spots anymore. And I can't even remember what it's called. Like, that's how little I cared. And I got it for free. You know, I didn't do anything to deserve that. I just got it, you know, handed to me.
Yeah.
So there's a version of me that has got really, you know, severe skin problems. Because it was getting really out of hand until I was given this medicine, and it cleared up in like a month, you know what I mean? So, you know, my shadow self is someone who, as just picking a small example, you know, didn't get free school because that didn't exist, didn't get free medication, you know, didn't get...
Yeah, I'm aware that a shadow you could play out. What I'm asking is the film more expressly about the idea of a shadow, or is it more expressly about the idea of class difference? Because, you know, I'm thinking about Jordan Peele saying we need to fight for the less fortunate, and you can't ignore the fact that Red, who was from above level and was taken down against her will, has a voice of sense and does have awareness of the inequality and uses that to mobilize the tethered.
That's only because she had a couple of years above ground. So
exactly. So she's somebody with a certain kind of privilege and using it to fight for the voiceless. So where does that reading fit in with the idea of, no, these are just literally the same person? Because
the thing is that it's not about... It's basically nature versus nurture. And that this film is saying that it's entirely about... you know, the way that you are received in the world is entirely to do with nurture. It's to do with social factors, because the nature of the tethered and the untethered, the tethered versus the, I don't know, above grounders, are the same. You know, like they have the same sight problems in the case of Abraham, or they have the same penchant for fire. In the case of Jason and Pluto, they're good runners, and in Zora and Ombre, you know, and then it goes for the twins. It goes for the, you know, Elizabeth Moss's character and her husband. Like they're the husband of Elizabeth Moss in the film. He's a joker, you know, whether he's tethered or untethered. Like so the nature is the same. It's just the situation you find yourself in determines who you are, whether you become a monster or not, you know?
Yeah, and it's definitely about luck, like, absolutely, and how you shouldn't feel in any way proud of your position because it's achieved through luck. Like, I think that's the part that we agree on. I think the part that we're, like, uncertain about is whether the point is that, you know, look at this version of yourself that could have happened, or look at people less fortunate and know that, you know, it could have just as easily been you. Like, it's just whether it's literally them or not that I think is where we're unsure. Because
that's
because a doppelganger, obviously, I should have pulled up some theory on doppelgangers and what doppelganger really means in other media.
I think I can remember.
Is it meant to literally be you?
No, you see, this is the thing. This is why it's really, really clever, because you know, a doppelganger in other things, you know, if you think of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or
they look like you, but they behave entirely differently.
Yeah. They're or you know, they're your evil self or whatever.
Behave in a way that is sort of
uncanny
unconscious.
Yes, you know, so there's
expressive of a deeper consciousness, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Like the I almost said that in a very pretentious way. You know, people would say nemesis, but you know, given my education, I tend to say nemesis.
Are you serious? Is that
nemesis?
Is that what the lucky ones say?
That's what the untethered say, indeed. Nemesis. Along with aesthesis.
Because that's how the Latin pronunciation would dictate, or what?
And I will go to my grave thinking it's aesthesis.
It's I think it's Greek.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember. But no. What I wanted to get at there was so when you talk about the people who are less fortunate, I think what this film is trying to say is, when you see someone less fortunate, you don't see them as don't see that as their whole identity. You know, you need to understand that that's just someone who
could be you.
Yeah, or you know, if they had just been in a different, if their circumstances had just been different, you know, they would have lived an entirely different life. And in some cases, some people are maybe always going to be fucked. But like in general, if you see somebody suffering, if you see somebody who seems to have, you know, less education or something like that, you know, you need to understand that that's just a social thing. You know, that people's circumstances largely.
But yeah, this is a social thing that it's been said is specific to America, because it's just taking place in America. And I think that I can't really escape the fact that we're told that somebody did this, like somebody set this up and wanted to use it to control the people up top.
I love the idea of an NHS version of this, where there's just like a massively long waiting list. They only managed to get like 6 clones out. You know?
I also have a problem with the reveal. Like, it's definitely satisfying in ways of shock value, but I don't know if the logic makes sense, because if Red's original tethered could make her way up to the surface and like it was fairly straightforward, why was Red, after being forced down there, unable to ever leave? Like, and if it is just a metaphor, isn't it a bit distracting? Like, wouldn't it make more sense if they hadn't switched and then Adelaide wasn't in fact a doppelganger, but had been forced into murder and things and was actually more brutal than her tethered counterpart? Because the fact that we find out that she's the tethered all along and is behaving in this way where she's starting to become unhinged, wouldn't that reveal that, like, just as the tethered have humanity, so the untethered don't have humanity in some ways?
Daft, do you want to field this one? Because I'm jumping at the bit.
Oh god, no! I'm my head's spinning.
I know it's hard.
I'm so excited that you asked this question. That was a great question. So what you're saying is, wouldn't it have made more sense because
if they didn't switch? Yes. Because then we would get to see the fact that somebody on above ground would be able to lose themselves a bit, because we do see like Lupita Nyong'o's performance is amazing and she becomes more unhinged. Like, so just the switch part isn't taking place, but her kind of unraveling happens. So just as someone
brief aside,
you know, someone could seem animalistic that wasn't just the tethered counterpart.
So God, Lupita's so good in this film, isn't she?
Yeah, she's
amazing.
So cool.
Absolutely.
But no, so the thing is, throughout the film, when you start to see Lupita's or you know, Red's true self start to be revealed through her, you know,
No. So if we're talking about above ground,
Wait,
we'll say
Adelaide.
Adelaide.
Yeah,
Adelaide.
Fine.
So if they're above the ground, it's Adelaide, and if they're below the ground, it's Red.
Fair.
But Red is who was born
Adelaide.
above ground.
Dead on. Okay, fine. So you see Adelaide's true character starting to come through because actually she was born underground. Oh no, look at her animal noises. Bollocks. She's in that situation now. So she's starting to behave more of the way that we see Red behave.
Because she's underground.
Or literally she's having to murder now. She's having to, get her hands dirty. That's the way that human behaves in those situations. That's all it's saying. There is no true self. There's a handful of properties that each of these two people have. And if you put them in different situations, they behave different ways. It's like Abraham and the glasses. His eyes hurt, and he needs glasses. And if he just could get the glasses on, and if he had just had education, if he had just been able to go to the college. Oh, what's the university?
Sweater.
Yeah.
I think it begins with an H.
It does. It's
not Harvard. It's something like.
Is it not Harvard?
Oof.
Howard.
I don't think it is.
Is it
it's Howard.
That's it.
If Abraham had just been able to go to Howard, he would have been that lovely, bumbly, soft guy.
Yeah.
And that's that's my understanding of the film anyway.
Yeah. No.
I think the film does deal in those kinds of slippages into different sort of selves. Like this idea of there being no true self.
Yeah.
Is sort of vital to the film.
I think so.
Yeah.
You do get characters who, specifically the black characters in the film who code switch. There's this idea that the authentic self is sort of changeable, or sort of there are always multitudes inside. That sort of emerge in any given situation.
The code switching scene is pretty essential to the film as well, isn't it? That idea that it's possible to inhabit different spaces and so become different things, viewed when you're viewed differently by society, that you become a different manifestation of the underlying handful of properties that are yourself. I think it's really genius. I really do. But
yeah, I think it makes me feel stupid, and that is only a good thing. Like, absolutely. But then, it's quite challenging. And
one thing that I think is quite funny is
to get like a concrete reading out of it. It's really challenging.
Oh, right.
One of the things that I came away from the film was that while I was watching it, because I was expecting, having enjoyed Get Out and I felt picked up on its thematic message, played out to this idea of a young black man having to meet the parents of his middle-class white girlfriend. I think I was going into this film expecting to find another allegory about race, basically, explicitly about race. And I think I was made aware of the fact that I was a white viewer watching this film, because I went in looking for that from a black director. Yeah.
Do you
know what I'm getting at?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that the film throws you off because it's fully about class, like, for the most part. Obviously, they're related.
It's an intersectional film.
Yeah.
It asks really difficult questions about all of these things, wrapped up in a sort of big, ball of thread, I guess.
Along those lines of problematically expecting race commentary from Jordan Peele as a director, I thought it was quite funny that so have you ever heard of Judson Jeffries?
No.
They wrote a book on the Black Panthers, but they also do reviews of movies for an African American Studies journal. And their review of this film basically just sort of said it was kind of crap. So in the Journal of African American Studies, it might be Journal of African American Studies, it might be a different journal. There's a 9-page review of this film that just kind of goes over the various bits and sort of says like, well, that's kind of daft. Like, this is a wee bit over-egged, and when he sums up the last couple of minutes of the film, he says, like, I just don't understand what was going through Jordan Peele's head. Like, why did he try to make it so convoluted and complicated? It could have just been neater. So, I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny that, it wasn't like heralded or held up in that way. It was just like...
I suppose the thing is that, like, in the conclusion of Get Out, like, friendship and, like, trust in your instincts is kind of like the relationship with his mate who comes and saves him and is more skeptical about it. Like, that's a...
Are you ready to have your mind blown?
Yeah, that wasn't the original ending, right?
What we saw...
There's an alternative ending.
There's an alternative ending. I know.
Yeah. What we saw at the end of Get Out was the untethered version.
Oh, stop. Listen. What I want to say is...
Oh, stop.
If the third film doesn't confirm this, then if Peele's third film doesn't confirm this, I'm going to be...
Wait, what do you mean the untethered version?
Mightily annoyed.
Do you know, it's the above ground version. It's the Went to Howard version of the film. Do you know what I mean? There's a doppelganger of Get Out.
Oh, and it's this film.
No. It's the version of Get Out that ends with him just being arrested and probably murdered as a result of police brutality.
I think that, like, okay, so what I want to say is that there's some answers there in terms of how do we deal with it. And I think that, like, America is so shocking, especially from an outside perspective, like, that it was really satisfying when, you watched Get Out, but you could see that there was a wee kernel of hope there, in a sense. Aye. But with this film, it's not necessarily that the hope isn't there, but it's maybe just harder to access. Because at the end, Adelaide survives, and it does imply something quite dark on the surface, that in America, the best and only way to class ascend is to be amoral, deceptive, ruthless, and willing to fight to keep whatever luxuries and stability you can get. But Jason, her son, seems to look at her disapprovingly, noticing that perhaps she has committed some kind of deception, and perhaps she isn't, in fact, the original person.
But what I like about that is how she responds.
She smiles at him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she's just happy that she's got a smart kid.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Well, yeah, I guess I was thinking about Jason, though, the character, and the way that when he's met with, like, Pluto, his doppelganger, he's not immediately violent with him. Like, he is encouraged to deceive him and trap him, but not necessarily injure him in any way. And they also have this connection between them, which is different. They mirror each other even when they're both above ground. That doesn't happen with Gabe or Zora's doppelganger. Like, so he manipulates that, but only really at the direction of his parents. Like, he actually... It seems,
he could have got on with Pluto quite fine.
They seem to have a kind of, like, familiarity and a bond in a way. Do you know what I mean? So perhaps it's not handed to us as like neatly, but perhaps the, like, hope of the film and the answer is that the younger generation will have more of a connection and humanity towards an understanding of, like, the fact that we're all really the same.
Now, I had one more thing to say about Hands Across America.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So the film ends with the actual, like, Hands Across America actually taking place. And so do you know about Hands Across America, about how it all played out?
Not really. Do you want to give us a wee detail?
So, the idea was that doing the very public fundraiser, that a lot of money would be raised. But unfortunately, while loads of people did do it,
a fundraiser to combat poverty and homelessness in the US, it should be added.
Thanks, Daf. While a lot of people did actually take part, not as many people took part as they thought. Also, of course, as we would all know, there are huge swaths of America that humans can't live in. There are huge parts of desert that if you tried to stand in there for any length of time, you would simply die, due to thirst. Which is why irrigation is so essential to America's ecosystem, human supporting ecosystem. So not as many people did it as they thought they would. A lot of money that was spent trying to advertise it and create, the kind of merchandise for it and that kind of stuff actually just ended up burning a lot of money. And so really
going towards the
marketing.
Well, I'm not sure the marketing, but I read it somewhere as being sort of, I don't know, the cost of setting it up. Basically.
Exactly. Yes. So not as much money was raised as they had anticipated, and it was kind of just a huge waste of time. So the Hands Across America action was a thing that, made certain people feel good about themselves. But if you just flip that on its side, what it did was just, obscure poverty and tried to provide people with this act of catharsis to allow themselves to just forget about it and feel good and move on.
But this film doesn't give us that catharsis.
No. So instead, what's raised up is we actually see this quite a lot throughout the film, is that there are white paper chains and then there are red paper chains. So what you see then is the red paper chain moving to the surface. Who were the actual hands joined across America that Hands Across America were trying actually to support but didn't manage to support in the end, and they are what rise to the surface. So it's kind of the shadow form of Hands Across America that is
of charity.
But specifically of that Hands Across America that is shown at the end of the movie, the impoverished, the forgotten, the possibility to have been completely left behind.
And I suppose Adelaide and Jason definitely understand the other in the way that the rest of the characters don't.
Yes. I've got one more thing to say as well. Sorry for bogarting, but I just can't believe that you're not the one bringing this up, Heather, our resident witch, our resident numerology specialist.
Oh, the 1111. It's because I've already talked about that, I think, but not on air.
You're just so bored of that.
No.
Is that basic witchcraft stuff?
No, it's really cool. I think that in numerology, I think seeing that time, I mean, it's explained as like a biblical reference in interpretations of the film, and it's a chapter in the Bible, 1111 Jeremiah. But when people interested in numerology see that number, I think they think it's a sign that someone is communicating with them, like an angel or some kind of like spirit guide. So it works on that level too, in terms of like
of the person,
your other is talking to you right now. Yeah, like it's calling out to you, because that's when she was led into the trick mirrors.
Is 1111 the pumpkin spice latte of the numerology world?
Well, it is the first one. I could be getting this wrong though. I need to double check.
I have it from my man Judson Jeffries that what it symbolizes is somebody who is
no, I'm totally wrong.
More in touch with the spirit world.
Yeah, it's related to, I think I was thinking of 3-3. 1-1 is related to a spiritual awakening and karma. And if you see it a lot, it means that you should turn more towards your spiritual life. You have a life purpose on this planet beyond what you think you do, and you need to serve others. So the karma thing is cool.
I read that in terms of Jason and Pluto's bond.
Yeah, because Jason also sees that man holding the sign that had held the sign. So he
sees the first
He's
victim,
called to the spiritual awakening, and obviously Adelaide is, because she is like deeply aware of that spiritual side.
Yeah.
Having lived on both. So, interesting. Yeah.
Well, I read it as Jason is more in touch with his spirit self, as is Pluto then, of course. And so that's why he has the ability to intuit, that Adelaide and Red were switched. He's able to figure out that something is going on there. That's why he's
more spiritual. Yeah. So it's a call to spirituality. Yeah.
That's why he wears that monster mask, because he's both Pluto and Jason are keenly aware of their duality.
God damn.
Yes.
You know what? It's taking me like an hour today with you guys to parse this film, like a first level parsing, and now I want to go even deeper, and we're running out of time because I'm thinking about like the whole culture of like shadow self and like spirit work and stuff, and like how people are motivated to like look at this darker side of themselves when they're becoming more spiritual. Yeah, super cool. I want to ask one more thing.
Nice.
This film had really massive box office success.
It did, yeah.
Its opening release was the most successful original horror film not based on known material.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
because it kicked its ass, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but that was obviously
that film was crap.
People already were aware of the material, so you could...
Coming soon to a podcast near you.
It was so bad.
We'll
maybe
don't
have to
make me watch that.
But like, you know how fashion always follows successful film. I feel that I've picked up on the last year, specifically in America, much more of a reappropriation of the boiler suit. And I just wondered if you guys thought that it was from this movie that people are wearing boiler suits more, and like, does that mean anything good, or does that just show that we have surface level participation in equality and wokeness?
I really did. One of the things that I really thought during this film was, God, I like the
I want a boiler suit. There you go.
I really want a boiler suit.
So
there's something about the cut of the legs that I quite like.
Damn, my legs would look good in that.
My legs look pretty good in a pair of sandals, It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Boiler suit and sandals, what a daring pair,
Just like, I think that the aesthetics of the film have had some success in other areas, so I just do
you get why it's a red boiler suit as well?
Communism?
Oh no, that's quite fun, but that's just a Dav, back to my one glove thing.
Yeah.
So again, Adelaide has tried to make the tethered look as much like Michael
Jackson as possible
in the Thriller outfit. Yeah. So they're wearing the only approximation of the Thriller outfit that they could get their hands of. I just love that idea that there's a bunch of people walking around like the Thriller thing. I do wonder if Jordan Peele was maybe scared shitless of the Thriller video when he was younger or something, and that's
I was scared shitless. It was one of the first things I remember scaring me.
a lot of public figures, have gone on to say that Thriller was terrifying. Now,
I have to say that the boiler suit thing for me, there will only ever be one true boiler suit.
I think I know what you're going to say.
You do know what I'm going to say, don't you? Slipknot.
I push my fingers into my eyes.
So for me, there's only...
They weren't wearing boiler suits at that time, actually. It might be more appropriate to sing something from Iowa, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Spit It Out or something like that. Yeah, so for me, the boiler suit will always be Corey Taylor.
Well, you guys are just too cool for this podcast. So on that note, I think we've got to wrap it up. Any last thoughts?
I think I'm going to be watching this film, time and time again. I think.
Yeah. I think so.
There's a lot to it, and I think I'm with Connor on this. I think there's a lot going on in it that you really need to watch it a number.
Can I make a suggestion then? Should we do an Us Part 2 at some point?
That'd be great fun, yeah.
Because I think that this is the only film with the heft that requires longer than an hour.
Well, let's do it a year from now.
A year?
That would be really fun. I think we should definitely
get into the numerology,
Yeah. For sure.
Today is the 1st of August.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just looked at the one on my calendar.
1st of August next year.
That's really weird. Or we should do it the 1st of January.
Or do we do it the 11th of August? We'll do some combination of ones to match the theme.
We'll do it on the 11th of November, obviously.
Nice. Right, so that's not that far away, but yeah, let's do it again on the 11th of November. That's great.
Sure,
Sweet.
Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
So Dav, you're taking it next time, but you're saying that you might not host.
Well, I mean, I will still be indisposed. But hopefully I will get to host, because I think as long as I can get my hands on a microphone, it
should probably sound the same.
It might be a little better than me being on the phone for it.
Yeah, you got to keep all those Dav fans happy.
Yeah. Everybody wants the SpookBox Legion.
Yeah.
Intro,
Do you know we're sitting on? Do you know we're sitting on the best number of subscribers right now for a SpookBox, for a Spooky Media podcast?
Is that right?
We've got 13 subscribers.
Oh,
Thank
lovely.
You.
So
really
if you're listening right now and you want to subscribe and you don't already, please don't subscribe.
Yeah, don't subscribe. We don't even want you to subscribe.
Right?
Don't subscribe.
Don't subscribe.
We like 13. Leave us alone.
All right. Well, it was amazing talking to you guys about this film.
Oh yeah, thanks. This was great. I was really happy to watch it. Yeah. Really, really glad that I watched this movie. Finally.
Dav, do you have any idea what we're going to be watching?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to give it a think. I would love to do a Shining one, as long as I can figure out how to do it in a way that hasn't been done to death.
Shining and Dr. Shite.
I think that's the only thing. Well, yeah, that's true. Actually, we did think about that. Yeah, we could probably do that. I mean.
Aye.
Yeah, why not? Let's try that next week.
Jump on the Stephen
Doctor Sleep.
The Stephen King train.
Shit.
Looking forward to watching
2 movies.
Dr. Balls again. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right.
We love you.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.